Hello and welcome to Off the Party Line. I am your host, Mark Williams, and today I am going to be talking about free speech and in particular, the Free Speech Union. I am a member of the Free Speech Union, and just recently, the man who launched the Free Speech Union and heads it up, Lord Toby Yong, was interviewed on the Triggernometry podcast. There's a segment of which I thought was really interesting. We're going to have a little look through it and I'm going to react to it as we go. So here is Lord Young on the Triggernometry podcast. Let's see what he's got to say.
Toby, before we wrap up, you're speaking of protecting people. One of the things you do at the Free Speech Union is help people who have been punished in some way for things they've said. What is the bulk of your caseload at the moment? Who are the people that are coming to you for help?
So, of course, the Free Speech Union was set up by Lord Young. He's spotted the need for a Free Speech Union. Probably shouldn't really need one in the UK, but it turns out we do. Lord Young was cancelled a good while ago, and he mentioned that he thought at the time, I wonder if there's anyone I can reach out to for any help with my cancellation. And there was nobody there who could help. And he thought, well, if there's nobody there, I guess I'm the one who's going to do it. So Constantine is asking him about his case, though, like, who are the kind of people that you normally help? And it's an interesting answer.
Well, since setting it up about 5 years ago, we fought over 4,000 cases, and where they've come to a conclusion, we've been successful about 80% of the time. And in our case database on Salesforce, by far the largest category is sex and gender. About 40% of those 4,000 plus cases we fought over the past 5 years have been defending gender critical women who've complained about having to share bathrooms, changing rooms with biological men.
So that might surprise you. So over 40% of the cases that they have fought, 4,000 cases, are for gender critical feminists. These are the kinds of people who, and this is around the debate around men in women's spaces, which is obviously a very fraught debate in the UK, it certainly has been. And it's not necessarily about the debate itself, it's the way that women have been treated when they have spoken about it, right? So this is the part of it that Toby's particularly interested in, and the Free Speech Union is interested in, is women's ability and even right, fundamentally, to stand up for themselves, to say what they think, and to not get in trouble for it. I've heard in other places, Toby, and other people from the Free Speech Union talk about the fact that the NHS is a big area where they're often challenging. There's a lot of problems with the NHS, particularly the clash of the NHS and what we'll call gender critical feminists for ease. But big caseloads in there, which might surprise you, might not, but let them carry on.
Think they're women. I mean, when I set up the Free Speech Union, I thought, I'd end up defending people like me for the most part, male, pale and stale Tories. But actually, the front line, the people who find themselves cancelled more often, the people who find it more difficult than anyone else to kind of express how they feel about something, even if it's perfectly lawful, are women of a certain age.
So again, interesting. He expanded on this in a speech that he gave at the Free Speech Union's 5th birthday party, which I was fortunate enough to attend and meet a lot of like-minded people at this event, all members of the Free Speech Union or people who the Free Speech Union has defended. A lot of gender-critical feminists there. Brilliant to meet a lot of them. Sharon Davies was there. That was a real honour to meet her. In fact, let me see if I can find. That was a real honour of my life. There I am with my lovely little face next to Sharon Davies and one of my comic heroes, Mr. Simon Evans, there as well. And you can see a group of other people. You might recognise their faces. You can see Tom Slater there from Spiked and a lot of other people there. And Toby in that speech talked about the fact that he never thought that he would be defending these people, but more to the point, that these people never thought that Toby Yong was going to be the one coming to their rescue for help with free speech stuff. 'Twas ever thus. Sometimes there's unlikely bedfellows in the fight, but we make alliances wherever we can.
who
You're going to get cancelled for that.
Well, not always of a certain age. I mean, but they mainly identify as being on the left. So
that will change.
That is changing.
I mean, they joke about it, but that is something I've often tried to persuade my, let's say, left-leaning friends about, is that you're losing people. This stuff really is making you lose people. And I've never understood why the left, for want of a better term, has allowed the right to take the issue of free speech and own it for themselves. It's been historically, traditionally, in my mind, a left-wing thing. And yet somehow the left has just decided to abandon the hill of free speech and allow the right to just colonize it. And so whenever you do get some of these people who would traditionally think of themselves as left-wing getting into legal trouble on free speech grounds, it is starting to pull them towards the right, which is fine by me, but I'm surprised that my lefty friends are happy with that sort of drift. So yeah, Francis jokes about it, but it is true.
But increasingly, we find ourselves involved in criminal work, so defending people who are actually being prosecuted and face jail time. So one big success that I was really proud of is a former Royal Marine called Jamie Michael, who in the immediate aftermath of the Southport attack posted a 12-minute Facebook video in which he wrongly blamed the attack on an undocumented migrant. Partly because there was a vacuum, as you know, at that time. The government didn't say who'd actually committed the attack.
So he'll go on to explain that case of Jamie McMichael. But just a quick note on that. So this is another thing that I think a lot of people have noticed, which is not a good thing. And we really ought to all agree on this, because you'll get some atrocity or crime will happen and the reporting will start about who the potential culprit is, who the suspect is. And there is inconsistency as to whether the police will report the race or ethnicity or background of the alleged perpetrator. Now, I go back and forth on what I think should happen, whether they should disclose it or whether they shouldn't. What I definitely think, though, and what I'm hoping we can all start to agree on, is that we have to pick one. Because the problem we get is, as Toby said there, it creates a vacuum, except it's not a pure vacuum. It's not a vacuum where people go, oh, well, I guess then we don't know. So, for example, Liverpool, and I'm going to say quote unquote attack because there's a case still pending, but the fella who used his car to ram into people at the parade when Liverpool had won the league, a parade that I'd taken my wife and kids to, was in town at the time when it happened. I didn't see it, but we were close by. Immediately after that, they instantly reported that it was a white male who struck the crowd. Now, I think, if I remember correctly, I think they did that to make sure that nobody would sort of guess or make assumptions about who it might have been. The problem with that is, if you don't do it consistently, we will only ever know that it was a white male because you say it's a white male, right? So then the next time it happens and you don't say anything, people go, well, if it was a white male, they'd have told us, right? So it must therefore be a not white, and that's just awful. Surely we can all agree that that's just not a good state of affairs. We really do have to pick one way or the other, because that's causing more tensions than the way we're doing it right now.
And he urged his followers to protest peacefully about illegal immigration into this country, the small boats in particular. And a local Labour politician complained to the police about this Facebook post, and he was prosecuted for intending to stir up racial hatred, the maximum penalty for which is 7 years in jail. And the Crown Prosecution Service went through with it. We urged them to drop it. We said, this doesn't meet the threshold for intending to stir up racial hatred. He was urging his followers to protest peacefully about illegal migration. And It took a jury we paid for his defense. There was a proper trial, a jury trial, and it took the jury all of 17 minutes to unanimously acquit him. And we're doing more and more work like that.
So, as you heard, very quick jury acquittal, unanimous acquittal. I encourage you to go and read about that case. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail now. What I would encourage you to think, though, is it doesn't matter whether you like the guy, doesn't matter whether you agree with what he did, doesn't matter any of that stuff. What matters is the incitement to violence has to be a very, very high threshold. Same with things like libel, needs to be a very high threshold. Otherwise, our free speech rights come under very quick attack. And what I always urge people to think is, it's not just going to be those people that you don't like. Because imagine a government gets into power who's completely against you and your views, and they suddenly inherit all these powers. What do you think they're going to do to you? Right? You've got to think further forward than just, well, I don't like this person and they said something nasty, so they deserve 7 years in jail. Really can't be doing stuff like that. And that's why the free speech union's work is so important. So they paid for his defense. He was quickly acquitted, and rightly so.
As the authorities become more and more likely to prosecute people for challenging kind of the prevailing government narrative about things like immigration, asylum seekers, the small boats. So that's been a relatively new departure for us. But one thing to say is that since Labour came to power just over a year ago, we've doubled in size. So we had about 14,000 members on July 4th, 2024. We're now up to over 31,000 members. So Sir Keir Starmer, bless him, has been a fantastic recruiting sergeant for the Free Speech Union. And we're now averaging 37 new cases every week. It's often people who are, I think, perfectly reasonably worried that they're going to have their collars felt because of something they've said on social media. Yeah, I mean, we do our best to help every one of them.
Well,
and they really do. So I know a couple of people who work for the Free Speech Union. They're great people, really encouraging to see younger people joining this cause, getting alongside it. But they've got a lot of work on. They're growing quickly. As you said, Keir Starmer's been a bit of a good recruiting sergeant for them, because I think we all really are feeling it. I mean, there'll be a lot of lefties who don't agree with this, but free speech is in a real crisis in the UK. Look at some of our previous episodes where we showed a woman silently standing on a public street being arrested. You might think, how on earth has that happened? We'll go and watch that episode to see the details of that. I'll put a link in the description below. What I'll also put a link for is the Free Speech Union. So as I said, I am a fully paid up member. I don't know if you can see my Free Speech Union badge there, and I wear it with pride. I'm not a joiner of things usually. I'm not generally a sort of, I don't have a political party. I don't join things. I don't sign petitions. It's just not my kind of thing. But this is so important. I put my money where my mouth is. I've gone for one of the higher tiers, not because I want to get anything more out of it, because I want to give back. I want to help people who are in serious trouble with free speech in the UK, because I can't stand it. I just can't stand it. People should be free within very, very narrowly drawn limits to say whatever they want. It's particularly in the age of social media. I know people get scared about letting social media just run rampant. But like it or not, and I know it's a cliche, but it is the new town square, and people ought to be able to speak. So I'd encourage you, please join up to the Free Speech Union. They're not paying me to do any of this. I just love it. So please go and join the Free Speech Union. You won't regret it. So final thing I wanted to talk about before we close out this episode is something really interesting that I saw Robbie Williams say. Not a sentence I ever thought I'd say. But Robbie Williams, as in, yes, the actual Robbie Williams, he was recently being interviewed by ITV News. I think he must be doing a new tour, or he's doing something new. But there was a clip going around that I saw that I just thought, I've got to talk about this, because it's something that really is close to my heart. So what we'll do is we'll watch the clip of him, and then we'll react to it.
That era where we didn't have to deal with having our phones constantly and being bombarded with things constantly, how do you navigate that? Because you're dad of four?
Yeah.
How do you navigate all that with
They
your
don't have
kids?
phones. They're not going to have phones for as long as humanly possible. And, you know, they're going to go, they are at school, other people have phones. Why can't I have phones? Tough. That's as simple as it is. I'm 51. I can't deal with the corrosive nature of the internet and things. It hurts me. It ruins my day. How can I give this drug to a 12-year-old? How can I give this drug to a 7-year-old? It's abuse.
It's abuse. Now, you might think that's a little bit strong. Let's just run over what he said. So the interviewer is saying, you know, we didn't have to put up with this when we were younger. We didn't have phones. And so as a dad of four, how do you manage that? And it's a very straightforward answer. They don't have phones. They're not going to have phones. Now, that is the approach that I take with my own kids. And since even before they were born, that's what I've been saying. They're not having phones. Now, I am constantly amazed at just how isolated I am, and what me and my wife are, in our society by taking that stance. I thought it would be the minority. I didn't realize just how niche a position that was going to be. And we're Christians, we're part of a church community. You'd think in a church community even, it might be a bit more socially acceptable to do that. Not a bit of it. You wouldn't believe it. Even in church communities, we are pretty much on our own. I find it amazing. Why do children need phones? What do they need them for? They don't need them. He's talking there about the internet. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if you are giving children access to the open internet, I don't even know what to say to you. I mean, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Even people who put what they think are strict controls on it, you'd be surprised as to what kids can access even with strict controls. Now, my kids are 8 and 6 now, and sometimes they'll say to me, Daddy, when can I have a phone? And I'll say, when you've moved out and you can pay for it yourself. I'm not getting them one. Why would they need a phone? What do they need it for? And I love what he said there about, well, their friends have got it. Well, tough. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Tough. I don't care. Maybe it's the way I was brought up, right? So I was very much brought up by my own parents to be like, well, it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. We're doing what we're doing. You'll obey us. Thank you very much. And I am very, very grateful for that. And I'm carrying that on. I don't care what other people are doing. I don't care what other families are doing. My kids are not going to have phones. The social media is for adults, and even adults can't cope with it. He's talking there about how it ruins his day. It's corrosive to him. I would encourage even adults, if you can't cope with it, don't do it. Don't use it. Don't go on it. Get off your phones. I use mine way too much. But the thing is, in our modern day, you know, so many things are now not possible without a phone. And so there is more of a case for adults to say, I need one. But even then, we could definitely use them a lot less. But for kids, and he says there at the end, why would I give these drugs to my kids? When you think about it that way, it's like giving your kids drugs. And he says that's abuse. You might think that's a harsh term. I don't know, guys, I'm inclined to agree with him. Sometimes people will say, like, well, what are my kids supposed to do? They get bored or they get bullied or whatever. Well, if they get bored, they can read books. What do your kids do if they haven't got a phone? They read. My sons devour books. Sometimes I'll walk out of my office and they're just doing puzzles on the floor. They're playing games. My eldest is playing the piano. They're making up games. They're out in the garden. They're kicking a ball around. They go down to the field. They do what kids have always done before these infernal things were invented, right? It's not, the big change is screens being given to kids. Parents, I don't know who needs to hear this. I don't know whether you're doing it and you don't want to, and you've got that niggle in the back of your head. What do you need? You need permission? Here's permission. I'm giving you permission. Parents, take your kids' phones off them. Don't give them back. They don't need them. They don't need them. Don't worry about what other people are going to say. Don't worry about what your kids are going to say. They'll get over it. They'll get over it, and they will thank you when they're older. I promise you that. But seriously, I don't know why we're going down this path by giving every single kid a phone of their own. I don't know why people do it. It makes no sense to me. But please, guys, just think about it. Just really, really think about what you're doing. Don't want to judge you. I don't want to feel like I'm coming across too harsh. But I know a lot of people do things just because they feel the pressure. And I understand that. Sometimes people do things just because that's what everyone else is doing. I understand that as well. But guys, think about it for yourself. If you feel like you're going to be on your own, you're not on your own. We're with you as well. Comment down below. Do you guys give your kids phones? If so, why? Am I being too harsh? Am I being over the top? Am I being too protective? Let me know what your thoughts are. Thanks for joining me on my first ever solo episode. If you liked it, please do give me a nice big thumbs up. Comment down below if you agree with me. If you don't, give me your thoughts. And please do subscribe to the channel. I'll see you again next time. Thank you so much for watching. If you like that, please do remember to give us a nice big thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more episodes that are coming soon, please subscribe to the channel. We've got plenty more coming your way.